They know chef's here.
Oh yeah.
Do they know it starts at 8:30?
I believe so.
It's hard to tell with them.
I'm sure we're on. Just a second, sorry. I believe so. So if you want to,
Where?
I believe we're on. So
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Green Room. So this week we have some special guests, and I'm actually going to slide right on over because we have our patient educators this morning with us. We're going to have Shaquan Harps and Kara Wissinet, and they're going to go over some product information. We're going to kind of bring it back to cannabis this week, as we usually go a little political. Dr. Barry is away, and he called me yesterday, and he was somewhere in Mexico. I can't remember where exactly, but he was enjoying himself. And usually we touch maybe Cozumel. I don't know. Maybe probably Cozumel.
That's what everybody says.
Probably Cozumel. And so anyways, we usually do a little politics, as you know, in the morning. And so I was just talking to Dawn, our producer, and I was lucky to be in Boston this week. It was really refreshing. Comparatively to the South. No Confederate flags. It was really pleasant. Everybody gets along there. I don't know. It was really, really nice. So it was kind of hard coming back. And so this week, though, we are bringing it back to cannabis. So I wanted to talk a little bit before we get on that point. Yesterday, we had a special order from the governor, DeSantis. During Hurricane Ann and post-Hurricane Ann, we were allowed to see our patients basically via telehealth. That ended yesterday, sadly. So we are going to be trying this legislative session to push for telehealth to be year-round, just because of access. We have so many patients that are in nursing homes or have cancer, and it's so difficult for them and their caregivers to get to the office. And telehealth just opened the door so much easier. And we have Kara coming on too. This is our other educator. Good morning. Good morning. So I'm going to leave the floor kind of to Kara and Shaq today. I am not an educator of cannabis by any means, nor do I pretend to be one, but we do have such a fantastic office here at Compassionate Cannabis Clinic. Our two educators that we have, Kara and Shaq, I don't even know how many patients you've spoken to. Lots. I mean, thousands of patients. And the knowledge base that these two have is bar none, probably the best in the state. And we're so fortunate to have them here in our office. And you're so fortunate if you're a patient of ours that you get to hear from the best of the best. And they're going to talk a little bit today, and I'm going to give them the floor about what new dispensaries there are. There's name changes, new dispensaries, new locations, promotionals, lots of products. And one of the things that I get asked when I go out, because most of my friends a lot of them are not cannabis savvy. So they're always like, oh, so what do you do? Just smoke all day? And we're like, no. It's medicine. And we're like, there's actually lots of kinds of medicine. And so I'm going to leave it to you guys to give us a little bit of an update as to what's out there, what's new, what's happening, and give us kind of an overview, you guys.
Some of the name changes, like you had mentioned, there has been some shuffle around, even like locally here in the Sarasota County area. So if you remember, MedMen used to be up on Main Street. They recently changed to Sunburn Cannabis.
Oh, cool.
I actually was at Cannafeast 2 weekends ago and met a couple of the girls at that booth, and super, super cool. So yeah.
Are they open now?
So they are going to be opening in Sarasota soon, is what I heard. Not yet. They're going to reopen in that same MedMen spot.
Oh, okay. Even downtown?
Yeah, downtown. There's a new move that went in downtown, so they're popping up. We should have that one here in Venice within the first quarter of next year.
Fantastic.
And then some of the others, we have INSA in the state now, INSA.
That's a new one. I haven't even heard
Yeah,
of that one.
I haven't ventured up there yet. Cookies opened up over in
I
Miami.
need to try that.
Gold Leaf Shaq's had some
Gold
products from
Leaf.
Gold Leaf.
Gold Leaf was awesome.
So yeah, definitely keep an eye out for some of the new, and the smaller dispensaries have a ton to offer. Oh, Flowery opened their first Miami spot, and they're going to be opening up a dispensary in Inverness as well.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of news.
Lot of spots
Oh my
popping up,
God,
and they'll be able to service that north part of the state now too.
And eventually they'll now, do some of them deliver? Because that's the other question I get a lot of times. So do dispensaries deliver?
Absolutely.
Most
Absolutely.
of them do.
Most of
Yeah,
them
and a lot
do?
of them deliver for free.
Oh,
Yeah,
even better.
absolutely. It's just really over a certain limit. So like with Gold Leaf,
Now, where's Gold Leaf?
Gold Leaf, they grow out of Mount Dora.
Oh, so-
But they do delivery for free on Saturdays in the Sarasota area, and they
oh,
call it Sarasota Saturdays.
Saturday-
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, the delivery guys from Gold Leaf are awesome, and the products are amazing. They got great flour. They're a completely organic dispensary.
Wow.
So if you're not somebody who's checked them out, I would say check out goldleaffl.com.
Wow.
I tell every single patient to check them out. They're a really, really, really good dispensary. So
So the other thing is sometimes you hear like, okay, like if somebody buys something, and they don't like it, or it's not like, I had a girlfriend actually, she came in as a new patient a couple of weeks ago, and she's like, you know what, it's not working for me. And some of the things that I thought it was going to do, it's not doing. So do dispensaries, or how does the patient go about changing what they're using? And because she's nervous too, she's like, well, what do I take? And I'm like, you need to come back into the office and talk to everybody, because I'm like, I'm not one to, I have no idea. So what do you guys do? Did you walk through different options then, or how does that work?
I mean, absolutely. I think one of the only dispensaries that I will actually take product back has always been True Leaf, and that's been from day one. So, I do love to tell the patients, listen, you got tons of dispensaries to choose from, but you got to True Leaf everywhere you go. So, I mean, if you do try something, you'll at least be able to take it back, and they'll credit you for it. This way, you are able to,
they're not stuck with
exactly,
$200.
You're not
worth of
lost
stuff.
out exactly on $200 worth of products. That just didn't work for you. So it's a great thing that the True Leaf dispensary actually accepts products, as long as they're not completely gone, obviously. So as long as they're not completely gone, they'll take it back for you. So I always tell them to do that, but always check with the other dispensaries and see what they'll at least do for you. They may not take it back, but they may say, you know what, we'll at least let you have that, and then maybe you could try something else on us.
That's cool.
You know what I mean? So I say listen, everything is worth a shot. Worst thing they can say is no.
So what kind of okay, so like I said, most of my friends are like, oh, so what do you do? Just smoke. So give us an overview of what's out there for products, and edibles are something that's new here to Florida, fairly new. So give us a kind of an overview of what's out there. And I saw you brought a little box, so maybe you could do a little show and tell.
Absolutely.
New products, and I don't have them in front of me, but things that patients can look for, especially on the non-smoking side and kind of getting into that edible form. Lozenges are popping up, the mints are popping up. Those are great because those are going to dissolve in your mouth, so they're actually going to work a little bit faster than a chew and swallow edible. The other thing I just got my hands on the other day, and I haven't tried it yet, is the drink powder. I got it in fruit punch. I was looking for it in the just sweet, because then you can add it to hot. So that's another good way, sort of similar along the lines of True Powder, but now places have it to where it's a drink soluble mix. So into coffees, into water bottles, into juice, things like that.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
that's
I forgot to grab mine from Pure Leaf.
Yeah.
They have a squeeze as well.
The squeeze, yes.
Yeah, I actually got their sweet from Pure Leaf, and I'm just checking.
No, is there any kind of a funky aftertaste or anything, or not really?
Some of them have that. Some of them you can tell you're taking medicine.
I think it's more with the powders than it is with the squeeze sometimes, and it depends on what you're taking it with.
Yeah.
If you put that in a sweet tea, you'd probably never know. You know what I mean? But I drank it with water, so it
have
was
the taste.
Exactly.
So for dosing, this is the other question I get, because people have always my friends have come here and they're novices to cannabis, but they want to try it because they want alternative medicine. They don't want, they're sick of pain, their anxiety, whatever, they don't want pharmaceuticals. But again, one of my girlfriends, I think she didn't know what to do, and I think she took a little too much. So then she was like, oh my God, I was so dizzy. I was this and this. So what do you guys recommend for somebody new? And I know there's a lot of people listening today. I do have a lot of friends listening because they were interested in products. So I want you to go over what it's like for a new patient, what you should do, because I get questions all the time from friends.
Yeah, I typically always tell the patients, if you have an uncomfortable experience, make sure you have some CBD. And CBD is always great for you anyway. It's just something that you really just kind of want to take because it's beneficial for you and for your health. But if you have that uncomfortable experience to where, listen, I'm a little medicated and I'm very uncomfortable. I don't like the way that I feel. The CBD is always going to help you kind of get back to normal. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about cannabis, to know when to just kind of learn coming in as a new patient, because it doesn't make you so apprehensive to use. It's like, I'm not just going to take it and like,
they're fearful,
be, medicated for a number of hours if I take a gummy that's too strong. So there's always something that you can do as far as having that CBD. But I tell them, you can, chew a peppercorn, you can sniff black pepper, because, if you have paranoia, the terpene beta caryophyllene is going to help dull that paranoia. So yeah, that's
and
a
what
beautiful
happens,
thing as
like,
well.
so, like, also, like, one of the things that she said, like, with this friend of mine, she was like, she goes, well, it didn't feel anything, and then I think what happened is she didn't feel something right away, and then
That's the
Yeah,
classic
and
rookie
then-
mistake
She's-
with edible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every day, a million times a day, I feel like we're telling patients, please be careful with gummies. Start with a little bit and then work your way up,
and then
because
wait, I think,
and
because they don't-
definitely at least 90 to 2 hours, or
Oh, yeah.
90 minutes to 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because she didn't feel it, and then she took some more, and then
I
all of a sudden,
have had a few amazingly, I mean, funny stories.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, everybody's always safe in the
Yeah.
end. And that's, another important thing to remember is, even if you do overdo it a little bit, know that, the THC is not going to, it is
wears
going to wear
away.
off. It is going to be out of, you are going to come down, and it's never going to affect your breathing. So always
that's
always
always a
safe.
good thing.
Might be a little bit uncomfortable for a minute, but call us. We know how to get you down.
Yeah, we've had some patients.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Yeah, pretty medicated at some point. So yeah, great stories from the patient.
So what other things? So there's edibles. What else is? I want to see your
Oh,
bag of
okay,
tricks.
so-
What else? Like, this is a
well,
great bag of tricks.
Honestly, I mean, I bought things that, I smoke because I'm a smoker. But for a lot of my patients, I always tell them about this loader, because a lot of patients can't roll joints. They say, I can't roll to save my life. And I'm like, honestly, God, you don't have to. It's not necessary. Raw has this thing called a loader that, listen, you can stick into the tip of a joint. And actually, I brought some of these. And it's really just to show the patients how easy it is to kind of stuff your own. But you just grab one of these bad boys, you stick it in the top here. And after you grind your flour, you scoop it out of the tray with this, and you tap it in with this bad boy. Tap it down, and you can roll a really small one for a half a gram. You can roll a really big one. It's up to what you want to smoke, if you want to smoke. You know what I mean? But I just like to tell the patients that smoking is an option. It's a great option because you can kind of dose yourself, as opposed to taking a 5 or 10 milligram edible, cutting it into 4s. It might be easier to take a small hit, know what you got right away in that 2 minutes to 5 minutes, and say, listen, I'm good.
So flour works a lot faster. Than
Much faster.
But,
It also only lasts about 2 hours. So, some patients might get 3 or 4 hours out of it. But it's a 2-3 hour thing, maybe at best.
So okay, so what do you recommend? Like, say a patient does have something, like, obviously we have medical patients here, and they need something quick, but then like they can't necessarily, like, what if they're at work or somewhere where they can't like literally smoke? So
Right.
then, like, what do you
I
do?
mean, vapes are incredibly discreet nowadays. Palm batteries, the disposable vaporizers, the little one and dones. There's no smell with those. That's not smoke, that's vapor. So it is going to dissipate. It isn't going to cling to your clothes, to your hair. And that's going to work just like smoking will, as far as the immediacy of it. The next step would be things like the tincture oils, or those lozenges and those mints that you can just kind of pop quick, let them do its thing. And then it's a slow, you just kind of give it, anything you take through the mouth will be about a half an hour to 45 minutes. So not nearly as long as waiting for those edibles to kick in. But
and as she said, with the gummies and the tinctures and stuff like that, you can always do the nano tinctures or nano gummies as well, because with that nanotechnology, it's that cannabis molecule broken down in much smaller particles or whatever. So it's just supposed to work faster. But that always is great. Always.
So what about also, because one of the things I also get questions on, and like I said, I get a million of them, is it addictive? Because some people are like, am I going to become, addicted to cannabis? Like, they worry about that. Does it have addictive properties or not so much? Is like something
No,
else?
not
It
so
really
much.
doesn't.
Dr. Shreve and I were actually just talking to a patient
Yesterday.
about that yesterday,
Okay.
because her question was, is it addicting? And she came back as a research. So that was just one of the things that she was worried about. She's not addicted to it,
Mhm.
but she had a medication that she is, and she's been on for 20 years.
Mhm.
So she said, I don't want it to become just like this medication. I don't want to
Exactly.
become
And I
reliant on
question,
it.
yeah, I
Absolutely.
get questions on it because they're like, a lot of people are coming off of opioids and different
Yes.
schools. And so I think they're so scared of being like, going from one thing to another.
Right.
And
Say that I'm gonna have to wake up every day and I'm gonna have to use this.
it.
And I'm like, the best thing about it is you use it if you need it. If someday you wake up and you say, you know what, I don't really feel like I need to use the cannabis today. Guess what?
You don't have
Go on
to,
about your day.
Wow.
And you're not gonna scratch and claw and shake over it. I mean, you may say, you know what, man, I wish I had some cannabis one day.
Awesome.
Absolutely not.
Pain come back, if you're a chronic pain patient and you're taking it for things like that, you're going to feel your pain come back. You might feel some GI symptoms come back, but that's just your body going back to that sick
Normal
state
state.
before that, so I think, and we've talked about it in the room with the patients, cannabis gives sort of a homeostatic effect over the body. It kind of brings you back into normal.
Yeah.
So that's why it works for so many different things for so many different people.
Because we always hear that too. So like I get questions too. They're like, is it really truly like this miracle plant that like literally helps so many ailments? They're like, is it true? And I'm like, listen, from what, and you guys can address what kind of patients, like from cancer patients.
As Dr. Gordon would explain it, we've seen anything from sprained ankles to broken necks, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's all across the spectrum, but we've seen a lot of patients. And we've seen a lot of patients get relief. So when we talk to patients that are really apprehensive, we can just tell them these stories that, of patients that we've seen. Obviously, we're not telling names, but, to just tell somebody the truth is, I think it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I talk real personal with a lot of my patients. I've come off 2 of the meds that I wanted to come off of, and I feel like a better person and a healthier person. And yeah, absolutely. So it can be done, and it is done every day. Yeah,
every day.
Absolutely.
And now, one of the things, like, and I don't know, like, I know our practice doesn't specialize in pediatrics and children, but I have had some parents ask me about autism. And have we seen, and they just asked me, they said, we know you're not doing like a scientific study or anything like that, but they said, have we seen, and I said, I can't address it personally because I said, I don't meet with the patients. I said, I can kind of give you an overview, but have we seen any results at all with autistic children in the practice and helping?
Definitely.
Like a calming, or
I'm not sure the number of patients we have, but I do know that, I believe we've seen lots of benefit with, the moms and parents who have children who are autistic.
Yeah, and that's usually, a lot of people think, it's usually a very CBD rich regimen with a small amount of that THC on the underside, and autism, ADHD. There's a lot of things, for the few pediatrics that I've dealt with personally through here. They've all been success stories. Yeah.
And just so that people know, in the audience, because I know I do have people listening, like we have them from all over the states. In the state of Florida, for pediatrics, you can't just come into a cannabis clinic and get medicine prescribed from a physician. You have to have a sign off of 2 physicians, and usually a pediatrician will refer the patient, the child, and then we will have 2 physicians actually look at the child, just because of the age, and we are cautious, and the state is also cautious with that. So, but we have seen tremendous results, and I know, like personally, like when I came into work here, it's going to be like almost 4 years ago, there was a woman here, and she had MS, multiple sclerosis, and when I saw her, she was really not doing well, and about 6 months ago or so, I saw her again and she was doing amazing. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And she was so happy. And I was like, like I said, you hear these and we see these stories and you're like, are they real? And they really are real. And it is, it truly is. And I wanted to get your thoughts quickly because I don't know what time it is, Don. How much time do we have?
We've got 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay,
Yeah.
good. So I want to talk about some future medicines that are not even cannabis, psychedelics. They're getting to be huge.
Yes.
There's a lot going on in Colorado. There's a lot going on in California. I was just in Massachusetts. Massachusetts has it on the radar now. So I have a feeling that a lot of the states are going to start moving into that. Have you guys, what are your thoughts on that?
I have, and in the past, when I was still in school and doing my major, I had done some looking at psilocybin for treating PTSD. And now I see it's funny because I see these ads come up on Facebook, on Instagram now that it's so widespread that they're looking for, patients with these diagnoses to try these trials. And so far, a lot of the research I've seen has been to the positive. It's a microdosing sort of way of doing it. It's not just popping a bunch of mushrooms and hanging out,
See that?
Yeah. So it's a little different than that, but
Do you think Florida's gonna be going in? I know we're ultra conservative here, and do you see that at all or not in the future? Probably.
Yeah, I'm surprised we're at this point.
Yeah.
But like I said, everything is worth a shot.
It is.
We just gotta make it happen as people. If that's something that we really want to see, benefit Florida as much as cannabis has.
Yeah.
I mean, almost 800,000 patients, or over 800,000 patients. I mean, hey, listen, it's.
And I know they are doing like a lot of research even on like cannabis, and they're doing research like on the psychedelics. They are, and I actually met with some people in Boston and we were talking about them, and they're actually doing research. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
so they are like whether it's like funded or not funded, but they are doing research and they're starting trials.
Groups.
Small groups
good.
are, and even like students, like
Yeah.
one of my nephews, he's studying I don't want to misquote what he's studying. It's like some kind of like, he's getting his PhD in, I think, like biochemistry. But one of the things he's interested in is cannabis and psychedelics, because it's good up and coming. And I think more and more people are moving off of traditional pills, and they're sick of the pharmaceuticals, and they do want to get off of that. And you do have people with PTSD, and our society is so stressed out. So you have tons of depression, tons of anxiety, and people just don't want to take some kind of a pill, and God knows what's in it and the side effects. And then 3 months later, you hear an ad that, if you died of it, here, contact this lawyer. Well, you don't hear that with cannabis. You really don't. And so I just want to.
Effects may include.
Yes.
Too hungry, too happy.
Okay, then, that's
Right.
Some effects, really, if it's just too hungry, too sleepy, some people are like, oh, I want to talk a little bit about weight loss. So a lot of people are saying there's weight loss with cannabis, and you would think like you get the munchies, but I know there was some research being done also in California by this doctor, and I can't think of his name. He's from UCLA, and he was isolating some parts of the THC.
It's like THCV.
Yes, and they said they were
Very
getting
beneficial.
really good results. And also my husband, it was really funny, he was in Spain over the summer, and in Spain cannabis is not it's not lawful, but they are extracting it for hair growth.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they have it, yes, and it's unbelievable. So like John's showing it. So like, but what's funny, because my husband has like a huge receding hairline, and one of his friends is like, oh my God, it really works. And he goes, try it. So Nordine got the cream. It's a little expensive. It's like 90 euros for like a little tube. I swear to God, it's coming back. And I'm like, oh my God. He's like, look. And I'm like, oh my God. So,
Insane.
it's
Hey, the
and
power of cannabis.
And it was
Telling you.
funny because I'm like, yeah, right, Nordine. He's like, no, Ruta. He's like, it's all over Spain. He said it's like the newest hair treatment now.
Yeah,
And
Spend a couple more euros on that stuff. Hey, send it down. That's awesome.
oh, so I got the shampoo from Spain too, because it's supposed to make your hair thicker. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, I told my, he's like, do you want it? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, right. Why not?
So I think there's a lot of new products that are going to be out. With the more research, the better the products. So I just want like some overall take on like, where do you see medical cannabis? What do you guys see about, do you think it's going to be legal in Florida? Just your views, like, because you guys, you know, you deal with it
I'd
every
love
day.
to see it be, recreational in Florida. I
Recreational,
mean, for me,
yeah.
that'd be an awesome thing. I mean, I think for everybody it would be an awesome thing.
Yeah.
But I do still think that there's probably going to be a need for the medical side.
Always.
There's going to be patients who say, listen, I feel like I need that doctor approval, or I want that education. Not that they can't go on Google or Instagram or wherever to get
But
it.
it's not,
But
it's a
to come to
lot,
a
and
doctor's
it's
office
confusing.
where they have the information for you, but they don't mind spending the time with you. Listen, most people come in and they say, listen, we love you guys and appreciate the fact that you're here. So.
And the fact that we educate, like, I think a lot of times, like, we do get patients even from other practices, and, just so that people know, when you come into this office, it's a medical office. And I think that's the other thing that people are thrown off by. They're like, they don't know what to expect, and they're anxious when they walk in. And even my friends are like, oh my God, it's a doctor's office. I'm like, what did you think it was? And it's like,
We're gonna see you in the alleyway.
yeah,
Right?
like, and some doctors do in Florida, unfortunately, but here it's very medical, and we do have educators, and I think that's probably what sets our practice above everybody else's. We do have Karen Shack in the office. They answer your questions, they guide you, they give you the knowledge that they have. And again, we've seen probably over 8,000 easily patients in this practice. And that's a lot. And we have every kind of diagnosis, like Shaq said, from sprained ankles to head trauma, it's everything in between, in all age groups. And I think that's the other thing, like, you see a lot of children bringing their parents in, even because the children are sick of seeing their parents not feeling well, or aches and pains and not being themselves. And it's worth a shot. And cannabis isn't for everybody, and it reacts differently with everybody's bodies, but it's a give and take, and it does help a lot of people. And it's again, we have two great educators who go over different products. Tell us a little bit, like, some people say it's expensive to go on medical cannabis, and so give us a quick overshot of like how much, like, if you walk into a dispensary, what's it going to cost you to kind of get some medicine, because people do ask that as well. It depends on what you're going to get.
Yeah.
It depends on where, it really depends on what the product is. Prices, when you really look at prices across the board between the dispensaries, it's very consistent.
Oh,
Very much the same.
it's the same.
If you have a favorite dispensary, follow their sales, follow their promos, get on their patient loyalty points, things like that. And that stuff, so many places now are doing, you walk in and you're like, oh, you have $20 worth of points. I had no idea, but yeah, let's use those. So, so there's,
or you got like an extra $60 off. So
right, like
wow.
magic. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
so
crazy.
we give some breaks.
absolutely.
Okay.
So you look for things like that, so that way you're aware of the sales.
Too. So, I tell patients, listen, as a new patient, especially, or even as somebody who's not a new patient, there's so many new dispensaries that open between the 210 days where we have to see our patients. When they come in, they're like, oh, I don't need that sheet. I'm like, hey, buddy, you want the sheet.
Want the sheet.
And they're like, really? I'm like, listen, there's like 8 more dispensaries than last time. They're like, no way. I'm like, listen, trust me. And you want to try this one and put a star on that one? And they're like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, yeah, but it's awesome. And there is expansion. We love to see it. And I love to tell patients, go try new dispensaries. You get a new patient discount every new dispensary for the most part.
At
Oh,
least
that's really
go
good.
everywhere at least once.
At least once.
At least once. It's true, because like you're right, and different stores have different products and different quality and different
Yeah.
everything. One of the only other things that I do hear, and I kind of want you guys to sort of address this, is you do hear patients where they start a medicine And then the next thing you know, they go there and it's not there.
Ooh.
And it's extremely frustrating. And I have heard that too, from a friend of mine. She's like, she's been on medical cannabis for years and years, but she's like, it's so frustrating. She goes, you get used to it, you're comfortable with it, and then you go in and it's not there. So what do you guys recommend for somebody like that? Like, what do you guys usually tell them? Just try for something else?
I always typically say try something else. You know what I mean? So a lot of times your body needs something different anyway. It needs something new. You know what I mean? And once you get like a new cannabinoid, a new terpene, it may affect your body in a more positive way. And you may say, "Ooh, you know, I haven't felt this type of pain relief before. It's been pretty good, but it hasn't been this much, or I haven't had this type of this type of anxiety relief. I'm pretty melted right now, so I could just calm down and be perfectly fine." So new strains are really great to try, but sometimes it can be frustrating if that new strain isn't necessarily working for you. So I'd say look at your products, check out the little QR code that's on it. You can always look and see like the terpene profile or the cannabinoid content or whatever, and find out which terpenes are affecting you positively. You know, if they're affecting you positively, then you look at another strain and you say, "Hey, listen, that's got that stuff in it. I need that pinene, you know, or I need that that myrcene." So kind of research a little bit, you know, for the better of yourself.
About the terpenes too, maybe you can address it. Like, so they're basically smells, right? And is it like,
Yeah, they're the smell, the aroma, the
it's
taste.
the aroma, the
you
taste,
know,
it's all of
absolutely.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And those affect the brain differently as well?
yeah.
Yeah, there's gonna be those, it's basically patients know their indicas and their sativas and their hybrids. So the way I try to break it down is that the terpenes are what make indicas and what makes sativas. And then you can kind of start to piece together, what it is that you're looking for out of the product. If you want anxiety relief, but you don't want to be completely sedated, there's going to be a strain out there for you. If you want sleep and pain relief straight down the line, there's going to be something for you. Some, daytime focus energy. It's there.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I even give patients on the way out the Flowery, which is one of the dispensaries we love. They created this little sheet that, shows for like our active patients. I tell all my patients to be active, but there's terpenes that help you with your workout specifically.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
And with your being active and all that, they help you with, keeping your stress down while, you're being active. And I think things like that are super cool. So I love to give that little tidbits of information to the patient. It's really important. That could help somebody end up losing 20 or 40 pounds. So,
just
even 5 pounds to get you started. Exactly. It can be a beautiful thing. So,
well, I know you guys, we are out of time. As always, this show goes by super fast. Kara, Shaq, thank you guys for all you do in our practice. Thanks for coming out and sharing your knowledge with us. For everyone else, Dr. Barrios should be back next week, and we'll have another episode of the Green Room. For now, everybody take care and see you next week.